Hello, welcome back to Whisky Wednesday. Another Wednesday, another whisky review of Meet Joe. So, today we'll show my first review of a Jack Daniel's whisky. Who would have thought it? This is the Rested Rye by Jack Daniel's. Now, I'm going to start this review by saying that, in all honesty, I'm not the biggest fan of the Jack Daniel's whiskies. I find them, for me anyway, just too sweet from a palate. I find their kind of range kind of doesn't have enough variation. It's all kind of just a limited edition, which they don't tell you anything about. So it'd be like the White Rabbit, which was a limited edition, but there's no indication of why it's different. It's just slightly higher strength, and that's it. They do obviously their single barrel, their Silver Select, their Gentleman Jack, which they do actually say why it's different. But when this came out, when they announced they were doing a rye whiskey, I was really, really intrigued, and that is an honest opinion. So I bought a bottle. I spent 65 Great British pounds on this bottle for a rye whiskey. Now, Jack Daniel's, many people think it's a bourbon, but it's actually not. It's a Tennessee whiskey. And what this means is they filter or mellow, the word that they like to use, mellow the whiskey before, or mellow the spirit, I should say, through 10 foot of sugar maple charcoal, and this gives the spirit a kind of slightly sweet taste. It purifies it, and it kind of gives it a slightly smoky taste from the charcoal. Now, their Tennessee whiskey is primarily corn based, okay, so it's the equivalent of a bourbon. If they didn't do that kind of filtering process through the charcoal, it could be called a bourbon, or it'll be called a Tennessee whiskey. But for argument's sake, it's a Tennessee whiskey rather than a bourbon. But this is completely different. It's made with rye grain, or primarily rye grain, so it's not corn based. So it's not even close to a bourbon. This is made from 70% rye, 18% corn, and 12% malted barley. So it's a really high rye content in the mash bill. And rye grain normally gives spiciness. It'll give a lighter style of whiskey, but with that kind of spice at the forefront. Rye whiskies aren't normally anywhere near as sweet as bourbon is. So this is the Rested Rye. Now, they released an unaged rye a couple of years ago. That was very, very limited. It sold out really, really fast. And that was completely new spirit. It hadn't been matured. This has been resting for, it says on the bottle, for at least 24 months. So this is a 2-year-old whiskey. Now, a lot of bourbon you see on the shelves, you can get bourbon that's 2 years old. Most bourbon you see will be around 4. This is 2 years old, so it's had a decent amount of aging, shall we say. Bottled in small batches, so this is batch number 2, bottled at 40%. I hope you can see all that. And it's unique bottle number 48722. So yeah, and it's matured in a mixture of barrels that have had varying toasting levels. Of course, new American oak barrels. Let's get to the nose. See what I think of this. Now, they are planning on releasing a kind of a fully aged version, so probably a 4, 5 or 6-year-old in a couple of years, which I'm again really intrigued to try, because I think it's really good that they're doing something drastically different. I think it's a shame that it's taken them till 2015, 2016 to actually do something drastically different with their range. So on the nose, I get bananas straight away. Do you remember those little foam banana sweets? It smells like them. I get spice. I get a really, really kind of like a coffee bean. Like, imagine smelling a bag of coffee beans. I get that. I get furniture polish. I get that sweetness that you get with all the Jack Daniel's whiskies, that kind of maple sweetness. I pick that up, so you can kind of tell it is a Jack Daniel's product, that it's gone through that sugar maple charcoal mellowing. Okay. I get a little bit of kind of cherries, and cherries is something that you will pick up from a lot of rye whiskies. Don't ask me why, it just seems to be a running tasting note and nosing note with rye whiskies. And I get specifically glacé cherries, the ones that are kind of, in the kind of glacé sauce. that you go on Bakewell tarts and those kind of things. I get glacé cherries. I get a little bit of really, really, really light toffee and a little bit of white chocolate as well. But it's pleasant and it's very, very different. It smells like the equivalent of like a... It's hard to kind of compare it to any Scottish whisky because it's not really like any Scottish whisky. So let's give it a taste. Now, as you can see, I haven't had much of that bottle. I've been using it in Manhattan cocktails, and I've drank a couple of glasses neat as well, trying to get to know it. And the more I drink it, the more I'm actually genuinely impressed with it. It's different. It doesn't taste anything like the normal Tennessee whiskey that they do. Flavour-wise, I get that spice. It's light. It's not anywhere near as cloying and as sweet as their standard Tennessee whiskey. Let's get you some flavour notes. Okay, specifically banana bread. Any of you have made banana bread or banana cake, tastes exactly like that. Also, there's a raspberry note. There's kind of a banana fritters, banana pancakes, a lot of banana, and that'll be coming from that kind of new American oak cask. It's a lot lighter. There's a slight dryness to it as well, along with the sweetness. Really impressed. Let me have another taste. It's kind of quite crisp. There's a citrus tang, like someone's zested a grapefruit in your mouth at the end, so you get some nice acidity. And there's notes of kind of that kind of coffee bean thing again. There's some dark chocolate going on in there as well. Finish is okay, considering it's young. You know what? I'm genuinely impressed, and I've been pleasantly surprised, and I'm actually pleased that I spent the money, the £65 that I paid on the bottle. Score-wise, you know, it is different, and I'm really pleased that Jack Daniel's are finally doing something kind of drastically different from their kind of, you know, limited edition gold medal bottles that are just, you know, collector's items, essentially. In cocktails, it does work really well, so this does make a really decent Manhattan. Score-wise, now it's hard to score it, but I think I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And some of you might be surprised at that. I think it's good, it's balanced, it's interesting, and I think that is the reason why it's getting an 8 out of 10 for me. It's interesting, and I'm just, again, really pleased that they're doing something different. I can't wait to see what they've got on hold for the future. I can't wait to taste this when it's kind of fully aged. Maybe it's a higher strength, because it's only 40%. And yeah, 8 out of 10. If you guys have tried the Jack Daniel's Rested Rye, please let me know, leave me a comment, please share the video. Let me know your thoughts on Jack Daniel's in general, on their range. I've tried to be as honest as I can in this video, as I always do. And I think I've given them a fair appraisal, in my personal opinion. And it is just an opinion. It's not the gospel. It is just an opinion. Please let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts. And I will see you next week for yet another whiskey review with me, Joe. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.